Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daily Bombast. I am Damien. There's a problem in this country insofar as that, you're either on one side of an issue or you're on the other side of the issue. It's very rare when anybody comes in between and says, you've got a valid point and you've got a valid point, but right here in the middle there's some common sense and a common ground. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with the issue that I'm going to talk about today, and that issue is gun regulation. Um, you know, Personally, I like the idea that I can own a gun in America. I like the idea that everybody has the right to own a gun. Well, not everybody, but most people. And but the fact is that we kind of have an unhealthy obsession about guns. Either like I said, you're either on one side of the issue or you're on the other. On one side of the issue, you're all about banning guns altogether. On the other side of the issue, you're all about, hey, everybody's going to come and take my guns away, so I got to protect them as much as I can, and I need these guns to protect myself from the tyranny of the government. Well, let's face facts here. Okay, first of all, this is America, liberals. You're not going to find anybody who's going to come and just do away with guns like you want. It's not going to happen. This is America. It's written into our Constitution that we have the right to own guns. It's just not going to happen. With that same thing in mind, conservatives, you got to understand that nobody is coming to get your gun. Nobody. Now, the only thing that they may do is they may put regulations on assault rifles, which in my opinion is not necessarily a bad thing. Look, again, I'm all about having the right to own a gun. But how many guns do you need, and how powerful do your guns have to be for protection against, say, criminals? Really? You need maybe a gun, maybe two guns, if you even need a gun at all, I don't think that people are really understanding why we have guns in this country to begin with. Now, if you're a constitutionalist, you're probably saying, well, yeah, we need guns, and it says so in the Constitution because of the possibility that the government may take over. Guess what? You're too late. The government's already taken over. If you honestly believe in your heart of hearts that some sort of second revolution is about to occur, then you are kind of the same problem that the NRA has already stated, and that is that the problem is not gun owners. The problem is the mental health of some of these gun owners. Because I guess I can pretty much guarantee you that if the government comes knocking on your door and demanding that your family follow them out the door to some FEMA camp or something like that, like your paranoid delusions believe that is going to happen, guess what? You're going. Now, if you have, let's say you've got an AK-47 strapped to your back, like one of these open carry idiots, then yeah, guess what? You're gonna make it known that you've got a gun, and you may even take a couple of them out. But guess what? Two things are gonna happen. A, you're gonna get slaughtered, and you probably get the rest of your family slaughtered in the process. Or B, you're gonna go with them anyway, one way or another. So you know what? Look, there's nothing wrong with having guns. There is nothing wrong with having guns. As long as you're relatively responsible with them, there's nothing wrong with having guns. That's why the government has allowed us to continue to carry guns, while other governments have forbidden their citizens to carry guns. But guess what? You need to be a little more reasonable about what you're carrying. You don't need to carry a nuclear arsenal on your back to protect yourself from a criminal. Now, you can also say, okay, well, and there's another side of the issue. What about the hunters? The hunters need their guns. Well, I've known a lot of hunters. Having lived in Washington and Oregon and Minnesota, in Louisiana, I've known a lot of hunters. And every hunter I know that's worth their salt knows that they only need like a rifle or two and maybe a handgun and a box of ammunition, and that's pretty much it. And then we have the parents that believe that it's okay for their kids to handle guns. Look, in this country, You aren't allowed to drink. You aren't allowed to drive. You're not even allowed to vote until you reach a certain age. And that's because we have deemed that, kids are not responsible enough to do any of these things. And that, drinking and driving are dangerous activities for kids, and so therefore they shouldn't be doing them. And yet we don't seem to have any problem whatsoever with the kid, handling, say, an AR-15, because you never know when the kid may have to use it in self-defense. Really? Really? When is a kid ever going to need an AR-15? When is a kid ever really going to need to shoot a rifle unless perhaps he's out hunting with his dad or his mom one day? It's just not necessary. Again, that second revolution that you guys keep talking about is probably not going to happen. And if it's going to happen, the kid's not going to have much of a defense, standing there with a gun, especially when the kid happens to be facing down the U.S. Army. Again, I'm not saying Americans shouldn't have the right to own guns. Again, I like the idea that we can own guns. But I think there's a huge difference there between the idea that, we can have guns for self-defense or sport, hunting, whatever, and the obsession that we have toward guns and gun ownership. And that in itself is exactly where the gun violence in America lies. It's not in the ownership of guns. It's in the way our society downplays the idea that they are deadly in nature. Take for instance these open carry guys that are out there marching through the streets with AK-47s strapped to their back because they can. And again, what they're doing is they're not promoting gun safety. They're not promoting the idea that guns are necessarily dangerous by nature. Instead, they're promoting the idea that America should have more guns and more Americans should carry guns. And, as though, 300 million guns aren't enough in this country. Again, I'm not so much concerned about the amount of guns out there. I'm more concerned about the type of guns that we have out there, and I'm concerned about our attitude toward those guns. If we need any kind of gun control at all, we need the gun control where we're controlling our minds. We're getting more educated about guns and what they actually can do. We need a change in our attitude toward guns. People in the government have obviously, proposed the idea that we get some sort of gun regulations going insofar as, universal background checks, better background checks. Personally, I like the idea that a background check is going to be so extensive that the guns aren't going to land in the hands of some nut that's going to go out and shoot up a school or a theater or a mall or whatever else, And no, the background checks probably won't curb the entire problem. More than likely it wouldn't. But to say that we shouldn't do it at all is the same as saying, well, you know what, that guy over there is a pedophile, and he's a known pedophile, and so therefore, we shouldn't allow him to teach children. But we shouldn't do necessarily background checks on other people who are applying for teaching jobs because, pedophiles are going to get into the school anyway, so there's just no, getting around it. That's a load of shit. And so, anyway. Okay, so that's what I have for you today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.